back.
Yeah, mic check, mic check, mic check. Oh man, I'm back officially live. Welcome back to Kickin The Real podcast. I'm your host, Andy Diosa. If you're a first time listener, thank you for being here. And as always, if you're a multiple time listener, thank you for being here. I'm very excited for today's episode. The MLS regular season is finally in the books, and as always, it's just always crazy. Like MLS season, you never predict what's going to happen because it's the most unpredictable league. So that said, we're here to try to predict what's going to happen in the playoffs because we like to make ourselves look foolish. But today, I got a very special guest with me. He's a content creator. He's a host. He is my goalkeeper of Confianza. I got my boy Eli Lesser in the building. Eli, thanks for coming through the Kickin with me, my brother. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great despite all things that happened with my personal club during the regular season. MLS playoffs are my favorite thing in the world. I wouldn't trade them in for anything. I don't care if it makes us an improper league. I'm all about the playoffs here, and I will be watching every single match.
Yes, sir. My boy's going to be ready to be locked in. We'll be locked in. If you are watching on YouTube, he's rocking the classic Galaxy throwback. Love it. We are not here to make my boy talk about the Galaxy, so I would not do that to him because we don't want to see him sad on stream. But, you know, as I like to do with all of my guests, I like to kind of get a little bit of background for the people that are not too familiar with the guests, just so you can let the people know how you got into the content space, how you got into the MLS world, and kind of what you're doing now and how much you enjoy it, because I know you do.
Yeah. For me, my biggest dream was always to be a sports broadcaster as a kid, and soccer was actually not on my radar as a young kid. I was a baseball player, and then I watched basketball, and that was kind of what it was for me. But then when David Beckham came to the Galaxy, I started to get into soccer more. My grandpa took me to go see him play. Anyways, one year I went to a sports broadcasting camp, and I noticed that no one was talking about soccer, and I realized that that's what it was like online as well. So I wanted to kind of create my own space for soccer, specifically about MLS. At the time, there was no one else on MLS or talking about MLS on social media aside from the MLS page. And there were 19 clubs at the time. Now there's 30. But that's kind of how it all started. I did a podcast back in the day. Now I'm just making short form videos, and hopefully I'll be able to tell you guys about some other projects I'm working on that will hopefully be bigger and take me to that next level. But you never know. But I'm very happy with where things are at right now, and just blessed to be able to call this a full-time job.
Yeah, man. Love it. I've said it on this pod before with many guests. I love the fact that the MLS space has so many people that are just like independent creators and do their thing. And I think that everybody always talks about kind of like growing the game and things of that nature. And I've always said in my behalf, like, it's not necessarily my job to grow the game, but I do love how everybody does support, right? And there's people doing so many cool things. And I think there's so many lanes that are open, specifically with MLS, because like you mentioned, there's 30 teams. There's people all over the country covering all these teams. There's a bunch of storylines, and we know the stories that are out here recently about certain things and about access. And of course, those are gripes that everybody really has if you've been around the MLS space. But it is cool because there is a lot of opportunity. And with that opportunity comes those chances to, be at certain events, go to certain games. And we've talked, over the years, how cool it is to be at certain things and just kind of soaking that in as naturally just as a fan, right? Because I think we all start at that point and then, things evolve as they do. But Eli's always locked in with MLS. I love the fact that, he loves the league as much as anybody that I know. And it's cool because at the same time, right, you have your fandom for the Galaxy, but you're able to see from a larger picture everything that's going on and able to kind of just discuss and be have a pulse of different things in MLS. So it is awesome to have you on the show. Obviously, somebody that I've known for years here in LA, which is great. Like I said, my goalkeeper.
Sure.
But at the same time, right, the cool thing is this, that we talked about it right before we got on the stream, that every year MLS happens, and I think less and less it becomes predictable. Like we think we know what's going to happen, and everybody does their preseason rankings, and then that comes back to bite certain people. And there's all these things about MLS that are so quirky. So before we do get into kind of breaking that down, what did you think of the season this year overall, without having to mention the misery of what the Galaxy were? But to that point, like the two teams that played in MLS Cup last year did not even make the playoffs in a league that a lot of people make the playoffs.
And that's the blessing and the curse of the league. I even talked about today in a video about DC United how, parity is a blessing for MLS, but it's also a curse. And you see how certain clubs deal with roster rules and stuff and how it changes from year to year. But this season, I think the big storyline for me were newcomers. as obviously we had San Diego FC come in very strong. And I think, the newcomer of the year has to be Anders Dreyer, who has played himself back onto the Danish national team, which is something 10 years ago you wouldn't see in MLS. Someone, coming to MLS, then getting back onto a big national team. I mean, there was the Giovinco situation back in the day. So seeing that, and then the big dogs, Heung-min Son, of course, Thomas Muller, these are guys that came in and they did not mess around. I mean, the impact that they've had on their squads makes me feel like it's a 2-horse race in the West right now. So that's one thing. And then the East has been just wild the entire year. I think the East overall is more competitive, and, certain teams rose tremendously. Certain teams that I had high expectations for were terrible, like in Atlanta United. When you spend the money that they did, you'd think that they would be top of the table, but nope, they were bottom. And it's just the beauty and curse of MLS and parity. But I am very intrigued by how it will all shape up, because we were talking about this. It seems like the most unpredictable season, the most wide open season. But then again, I have a scary feeling that it's going to end up being the obvious thing of like LAFC versus Miami in the final. And then we're going to be like, oh, we should have known that from the start. But that's the great thing about MLS, because last year Inter Miami broke the points record and got ousted in the first round. So you never know.
Yes, shout out to Atlanta United who pulled that major feat off and then had this season just be completely terrible. But so much happened during the year. But that's behind us now. The teams that didn't make it, which are very few, because like I said, a lot of teams make it in MLS. Better luck next year, and there's a lot to get back to the drawing board too. But we have the bracket. The MLS playoffs starts Wednesday with the wild card games. If you're watching on YouTube, we have the bracket up here for some visual purposes. In the East, we have the Chicago Fire versus Orlando City, which is insane that Orlando dropped that much. And we were talking, because we actually play soccer on Saturdays, and we were talking ahead of decision day, like, oh, there's not that much riding on this decision day. And then Orlando somehow just plummeted crazy. And then Columbus did their job and rose. But either way, the Eastern wildcard game is at Chicago Fire against Orlando City. And the West is the Portland Timbers versus RSL. And then, as you can see here with the bracket, that's how things play out. The winners of those wildcard games will go on to play the top seeds in both conferences. In the East, we have the Supporters Shield winners, the Philadelphia Union. Incredible season under head coach Bradley Carnell. They will play either the Fire or Orlando. Remember, these first round series are best of 3 series for reasons unknown that we will not get into. Then we have the Charlotte FC will play New York City Football Club, which is a pretty interesting series, I think. We have Inter Miami against Nashville, which is a game that we just saw in Decision Day. And then we have Hellas Real, Cincinnati, and Columbus rounds it out in the East, which is going to be a lot of fun. Out West, we have San Diego is the top seed, expansion darlings, incredible expansion season. We'll play the winner of the wildcard game, which is once again Portland or RSL. We have Minnesota as the 4 seed playing Seattle, which I think is very, very intriguing. LAFC is playing Austin again for the 17,000th time, it seems like. Which is going to be a kind of a weird series, I think. And then we have the Vancouver Whitecaps, who enjoyed an incredible year against FC Dallas, which is also a game we just saw on Decision Day. So, Eli, we're going to do this. We're going to fill the bracket out here in real time, because I think, once again, to the league that's unpredictable, let's make ourselves look foolish as possible, right? Why not? This is what it's all about. So let's start with the wildcard games. Let's start with the Eastern wildcard game, Chicago and Orlando. What are your feelings about this game? It being played in Chicago, I think, is a bit of a factor as well. How do you feel about that Eastern wildcard game?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a big deal for the Chicago Fire. We talk about, how most teams make the playoffs in MLS. Well, the Chicago Fire haven't since 2017. So this is a big deal for them. And also, to me, and maybe I'm a snob for this, I don't consider you a playoff team until you get past the wild card game.
I like that.
I think Chicago is going to be fighting real hard for this one. And Orlando is a team that's really slipped and fallen off as the season has progressed. Pedro Gallese has not looked great in goal as of late. I don't trust Orlando in this match. And since it's a one-off in Chicago, I'm going to pick Chicago for sure.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that I'm so disappointed in Orlando, man. And you know what's actually funny about this? When you had your event a few weeks ago out here in LA, I was talking shout out to Justin, our boy Justin Ruderman. We were talking at the end of that night, and I was like, yo, if there's a team in the East at that moment that I would like really pick that could probably give Miami a run, I was like, it's going to be Orlando. I was like, they have all the pieces to do so. It felt like everything was there for them. We've seen them play Miami and have favorable results. And then the last like month of the season, just complete downward spiral. And it makes me very disappointed because the team is so talented. I think Oscar Pareja has a good coach. Obviously, my Colombian bias is there. They have Edward Atuesta. They have Luis Muriel. But they just haven't put it together. And it's sad because, when you catch heat at a certain time of the season, it helps you. And then when you slip like that, it's really hard. I mean, they were in a position in decision day to not even have to play the wild card game, to go into playing the wild card game, to hosting the wild card game, to then falling into ninth and having to be on the road for the wild card game. So it's not a good look. Once again, in my bias, I really do hope that they win this game, but I'm all in on Chicago for this one. I think Greg Berhalter has done a good job this year there in Chicago, bringing them back to the playoffs for the first time since 2017, as you mentioned. Philip Zinchenko has been amazing this year. They have good pieces. They play interesting form, but I think their energy, their momentum coming into this game, I think they're unbeaten in their last 5 matches. Coming into this wild card game, I think it gives them the edge. So I'm with you on that one. Chicago for me. Boom, 1 down. Let's go. Let's go to the Western wild card game, which is the Portland Timbers will be hosting Real Salt Lake out in Providence Park. How do you feel about the Western wild card game?
I mean, like Orlando, the Timbers are looking shaky as of late, and RSL are just one of those clubs that they, on paper, should be one of the worst teams in the league, but somehow always manage to just exceed expectations. So I'm actually going to go with the away team. I'm going to pick RSL to beat Portland here. I don't think Portland has health on their side as well. I think they're missing some of their big names versus RSL, like Olatunji. I know they lost or they drew on decision day to St. Louis, but Olatunji looked great out there. Diego Luna is known to step up in some big matches, more for the U.S., but I got to back RSL on this one for sure.
Yeah, this one, I'm also going to go with RSL, but this one's a little tricky for me because I feel like the Timbers, that's another team this year that I had a lot of confidence in, and for some reason they were very inconsistent, but the pieces that are there, I think are the right pieces. I just don't think Phil Neville has gotten the best out of this roster, and unfortunately, that's been the case for Phil Neville for a little bit of time now. Do I think they're talented enough to be RSL? Yes.
Yeah.
They're playing in Portland, which we know Providence Park is one of those places. But there's something about RSL always when the playoffs roll around. People like to make the X-Dog joke. Pablo Mastroeni will have these guys ready to play. I think off of form, I'm going to roll with RSL. But the more I think about it now, I'm like trying to lean a little bit towards the Timber side. But I am going to stick to my RSL pick. I will give them the benefit of that. I think Diego Luna and company will show up. And give them a fight, and that's typically what RSL does in moments like this. They'll lock in. So let's go 2 for 2 so far, man. I like this. So RSL and Chicago in the wild card games, which sets our bracket up nicely. So let's go to the East. We'll run through the East all at once, and then we'll go to the West. So we're not like jumping back and forth and going crazy. So let's start with the 1 seed. In that case, it would be the Philadelphia Union versus the Chicago Fire in the conference semifinals. Oh, sorry, yeah, in the round of 16. First round, best of 3. That well, I'll let you give me your thoughts here because there's a lot of thoughts on the Union winning the Supporters Shield and Bradley Carnell's job there. What are your thoughts of that potential matchup there?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one, and I think you might be hinting at how I feel about Philly, where it's like, how did this team win the Supporters Shield? They did. They're very. I mean, Bradley Carnell had a chip on his shoulder this year. I think a lot of their players had chips on their shoulder. I don't think this team is designed to go far in the playoffs. That being said, I do think they will have the upper hand against Chicago just because they are more experienced in these types of situations where Chicago, not quite a lot of new names. And yeah, they've been great this year. Zinchenko has been probably number 2 on my newcomer of the year list behind Anders Dreyer. But that being said, I just trust what Philly has built more. So I will pick them in a 3-match series here.
I think the important key to this series is exactly what we just said, the fact that it's 3 matches. If this game were later on in the playoffs and it was a 1-off, I might be leaning towards picking Chicago in that situation. Same. And I think that's 2 things. It's a testament to Chicago being pretty gritty and tough on opponents this year, but it's also like we've seen, I mean, obviously Philly winning Sports Shield is a great thing, but we've seen them in certain games like get thrashed. And that's just to the point is like, they won the Supporters Shield. It's an amazing accomplishment. Bradley Carnell was my vote for Coach of the Year. I'm a big Bradley Carnell fan. I've talked about it on this podcast many times. But there's something to be said about how that team is constructed. There's something to be said about how they traded Milan in the middle of the season and like who is their natural goal scorer there. The Quinn Sullivan injury definitely dampens their chances. I think with a healthy Quinn Sullivan on the field, this Philly team could have potentially made a run towards MLS Cup. I will pick Philly for sure. Just off of the strength of what they put together this year, and they still obviously have some great pieces there. It's going to be one of those things, though, that we need to see how this series plays out. Because if it does go more than 2 games and they get pushed to that 3rd game, obviously they're hosting and they have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. But it's gonna tell us a lot about the future, right? About the rest of the playoffs if they do advance. Because right now, it's crazy to say the top seed, the best team in MLS regular season, it's an unknown quantity right now. And we don't know how much to trust them. And I love the fact that Bradley Carnell has this team in this position, because he's one of those coaches that he's like, I don't care what you're talking about. And he said it, the day they won the Supporters Shield. Like, we're not the super team. I'm not the super coach. We don't care, which is great. Like, that's all amazing. By the end of the day, you have to put that on the field and you have to win high pressure games in the playoffs, which Philly as a organization has done. But this is a new regime. So we'll see how that rolls. I'm rolling with Philly. And, my guy, Brad, hopefully he does win Coach of the Year. But it's a very loaded category this season. But I'm intrigued to see what this Philly team does. So let's go. We're 3 for 3 right now. Let's get it rolling. Charlotte, New York City FC is the next series. I think this is going to be an interesting series, mainly because Wilfred Zaha decided he didn't want to play game 1 and got a red card on decision day for just no reason whatsoever, which kind of changes things for me a little bit. I think Charlotte's such a good home team, and them having that, having the advantage there, having that game 1 at home. But without Zaha, you start to think, will they be creative enough on offense to be able to counterattack basically what New York does? Because we know New York is going to have their chances. It's a fast team, it's a dynamic team, and they defend fairly well. So I think that game 1 is very, very tough, not having Zaha. I'm going to lean Charlotte, but I'm not confident, man. I think there's something about this New York City team that they've been a little slept on this season. I feel like they get slept on a lot, and they have some pretty good pieces. And I think if there's a team, you have to go play in a baseball stadium, which is crazy. Going from a football stadium to a baseball stadium is going to be like, I feel like even that is going to be crazy. So if there's a series that I'm not confident in, my pick is this one. I'm going to pick Charlotte for the sake of picking Charlotte, but I would not be surprised if New York City wins the series. I'll leave it at that.
You see, you took a lot of the words out of my mouth for how you describe Charlotte, but that's actually why I'm picking NYCFC. I think Zaha, big goof for what he did in that match. Charlotte needs home matches, and I could see NYCFC taking this in 2. Charlotte struggles away. I think without Zaha, they lack that type of game changer. Is Pep Biel healthy right now? I missed that. Or is he out?
I think I'm not positive off the top of my head if he's going to be there for them or not.
But either way, I don't think the team has the creativity up top without Zaha there. And it sucks because earlier in the season, the way you said Orlando was a team that could take down Miami, I was convinced that Charlotte could have been that team. Yeah. But now in the situation that they've put themselves in, I don't think they could get past a relatively hot NYCFC team. I know they've lost their last 2 matches, but before that, they've been on a great form, even getting to this seed in the first place. So I actually am going to pick NYCFC here. And I think they will get it in 2 matches, which is unfortunate because I really like this Charlotte team. But I just think they've put themselves in a really bad spot here.
Yeah, and I think the thing about Charlotte too is like they have good pieces there, right? Like they have Toklabadi, they have Karen Vargas and all that. But it's just like missing your centerpiece player for a game 1 where a place that they're so good. I think they won 13 games in Charlotte this year, which is incredible. They're always good at home, but then you look, like we mentioned with New York, I think they won like 11 home games this year. And granted, those are on baseball stadiums, sometimes different baseball stadiums. No. But it's like if this game 1 goes New York's way, and you know how it is. Like this is a series where like if you're tied, you're going to penalties. It's gonna create a
shootout. Matt Freed versus Kalina, bro.
Exactly. Ooh. So there's a chance New York makes that first game very, very messy. They try to sneak away with one, and like your point is right there. Like they go home with a chance to I don't want to say pull off an upset, but pull off a pretty big first round win. Man, I could see it. I could definitely see it. Okay, I like that. So you got New York, I got Charlotte. Enter Miami, Nashville. We just saw this on decision day. We've seen this matchup a lot, and they played in the Leagues Cup final a few years ago. They played some pretty big games over the year. It seems like these 2 teams are very, very familiar with each other. Decision day was pretty funny because it seemed like Nashville was cruising, and then the inevitable happens where Lionel Messi kind of just locks in and just starts acting up and ends up with a hat trick to lock up the Golden Boot. His first Golden Boot in MLS. Definitely going to win the back-to-back MVPs. First time that's ever happened in MLS history. There's not many other things we need to say about Lionel Messi because everything that needs to be said about Lionel Messi has already been said.
Yep.
But what do you feel about this series? Do you give Nashville a fighting chance, or is this going to be Messi carrying Inter Miami through?
No glaze, but Messi's not getting ousted in the first round again. Like, he's just not going to let that happen. Miami has dominated Nashville overall since the Messi era. I mean, that 2023 Leagues Cup final is one of my favorite matches in recent memory, just like how intense it was, the goal Messi scored. So for me, I definitely have Miami taking this one. I think Nashville's very talented enough to maybe push it to 3 matches. I think what BJ Callahan has done has also been amazing. If we talk about great coaches this year, I want to figure out a time to do a video on him, but I think I need like a Nashville upset for me to make that video. But I'm very intrigued by Nashville, but I just, this Miami team and the form they're in and the form Messi's in, sure, they've been destroying not so great clubs, but they're still winning and by a lot. So I'm going to go with Miami here. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, we don't have to complicate it. I agree. I'm definitely going Miami, but I will say to a few things you said, BJ Callahan and what he's done in Nashville this season has been really, really good. And I think that for once, I don't want to say for once, but things were so particular under Gary Smith, and now things have transitioned, and you could see his input on that team and how much that's helped. Sam Surridge, an incredible year. He was up there in the Golden Boot race alongside Messi basically the whole season. Just incredible. I mean, they win U.S. Open Cup, which is their first trophy in franchise history. They had so many good things happening for them this season. Hani Mukhtar has been incredible since he got to MLS. They have the pieces there that this team could be really good, and then they have to run into Miami in the first round. I think if Nashville plays anybody else in the East in the first round, I would probably pick them without really hesitating. Mm-hmm. But the fact that they have to play this Miami team, it's tough because you look in the other side and it's like Miami has been so bad on their transition defense, and that's not anything that's surprising because they have older men there, they have players that are not connected, but it feels like you have to score like at least 3-4 goals against them in order to have a chance, right? Like against it, we mentioned the point of like if this gets messy and goes to, no pun intended on the Messi, if it gets games like that to penalty kicks, then we're like okay, but it's Messi, bro. Like like at the end of the day, Luis Suarez is Luis Suarez, Messi's Messi. They have Jordi Alba still. They have these 2 legends that are retiring also.
That's the last dance.
Yeah, like it's gonna give them definitely more of an emphasis. And like you said, I don't think they're gonna be out in the first round this year as they were last year. But that being said, I don't think it's gonna happen, but I would love to see Nashville push this to 3 games just for the sake of, like I mentioned with Philly, to see what this Miami team is gonna look like and how they're gonna react. Because if Miami's on the ropes and things get in any particular game, things get kind of muddy for them, I want to see what their reaction is. And it can't just be, let's try to find Messi. I mean, the good thing about everybody else on the Miami attack is like people kind of just form into their place when Messi's on the ball and when he's hot. But then you'll see certain situations where like they're giving you perfect passes and Allende is missing wide open net, or whoever is missing a wide open net. So it's like, of course, this team could be beat. Sure, I don't think it's gonna happen in the first round, but there's one thing about me that says like Nashville is so used to playing this team at this point, and them being able to have that decision day kind of as a basis. I think BJ Callahan finds a way to at least force this to 3 games. Well, I don't know. I say that, but I don't actually believe it's going to happen. So I lied. But
we would like to see it happen.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. Let's say that. But yeah, I'm rolling with Miami.
I feel bad because Nashville would be a conference finalist if they got the 5th or 4th seed. They would beat Charlotte and they would probably beat Philly. I would take them over Philly. So it's unfortunate, the luck of the draw, but
yeah, it's literally just unlucky because we're talking about that. Like this year, this season was so good. The regular season, like BJ Callahan, any other year probably wins Coach of the Year, right? You could make an argument for Sam Surridge or Hani Mukhtar being like legitimate MVP candidates, even though we know they're probably not going to be because of how good the league was. But they had a lot of things going for them, and they have the pieces there. It'll be interesting to see Walker Zimmerman if his health is fully there to play. But that team is good. It's as simple as it gets. That team is good. They had a time of the season that they were really, really good, and they looked like the best team in the East. And I think kind of like hitting a switch in the playoffs might remind them like, yo, we are actually this nice. But when you're up against players like Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez,
it's a wrap. Like,
all right, let's go to the final series in the East. We have Hell is Real, FC Cincinnati, and the Columbus Crew. This is the soccer guys listening to us, man. Like, I was hoping earlier in the season that we're going to get Miami or Orlando in the playoffs. Probably not likely, but this is good. We love a good rivalry game, a derby in the playoffs, and it's one of those things that you say, like, the form does matter, but at the same time, it doesn't. You got to throw a lot of that stuff out of the window, and Pat Noonan and Wilfred Dancy will probably tell you the same thing. Like, this is a clean slate. We know injuries are a part of this. We know that maybe the way that Columbus ended the season wasn't ideal, but it's a derby. They're familiar with each other. There's legitimate animosity there. There's two rivals, one state, bragging rights, all of that. So how do you feel about this series?
This is actually the hardest one for me to predict, which might seem crazy as a 2-7 seed. However, so mid-July or whatever, like at some point in the season, I told myself that Cincinnati was winning MLS Cup this year. I don't know why, but I was just like, you know what? Cincinnati is going to do it. They're going to win it all, blah, blah, blah. But then when you look at the underlying numbers here, I mean, Columbus has had the upper hand on Cincinnati in head-to-head matchups this year, which is important to think about, especially in a 3-game series. And Columbus does, although they look different than they have in recent years, they're still, the team that keeps making finals, keeps making runs in MLS. And that's a very scary thing if you're Cincinnati. This is probably the worst matchup for Cincy in the first round, I would say. That being said, I'm still going to go Cincy. I think they get their revenge from the 2023 MLS playoffs when they faced each other. And for me, the MLS playoffs come down to stars. That's how it usually is. That's why I think a team like Philly won't actually go all the way, because who is their actual star piece that's going to be the difference maker in the end? And for me right now, I mean, Evander is the second best player in the league behind Messi, numbers wise, impact wise. And Columbus has some doubts right now with their guys. Daniel Gazdag's not been the signing they've hoped he was. Diego Rossi to me has always been more of a complimentary guy than like a game changer himself. And then I don't know, is Ali, is he healthy right now? Is he playing? That's an issue here. So I'm going to pick Cincy here, but I think if everyone was fully healthy, I don't know, man. I might go with Columbus, but I think Cincy just has to, for their own sake, get the job done against Columbus and have that bragging rights for themselves, because I think they've earned it at this point, but we haven't seen it this season.
Yeah, I think everything you said is spot on. If this Columbus team was fully healthy, we'd be having a completely different conversation. I don't even think Diego Rossi plays in this series either, which is crazy. I agree. I'm going to take Cincy. Cincy's the one team for me this season that I wasn't high on coming into the year for some reason. It's the one team for me this season that I still was like maybe sticking to my guns and was like, nah, I don't see it. And then they had the end of the year where I was like, okay, I might be converted now to believe that this team could make a run. I think Pat Noonan is a great head coach, especially in MLS. He knows exactly what he needs to do to get the best out of his team. You said it. This is probably the worst matchup for them. Like, if they did not want to see Columbus, regardless of what the form is, because we know what Wilfred Nancy has done in this league and what he's capable of in terms of just a straight game plan and strategy standpoint. Right? We're not even talking about the actual game itself. I was like you a few years ago when you said out of nowhere that you said since he's going to win MLS Cup. I was that with the Columbus Crew the year they won MLS Cup. So there's definitely the pieces there for them to be able to do this. I don't think they will be able to, because it's a mountain very high to climb. And
I agree. Now
Ender is on a different level right now. That Cincinnati team is in attack is one of the best in MLS. Kind of just the way they do it. It flows easy for them. It's once they're on their game. Brenner coming back has added so much to them.
Huge pickup.
I think him and Evander, they figure it out. There's that, that camaraderie, both being Brazilian. I think they have it. I think they do have what it takes to make a run at MLS Cup. I will say this: Columbus this year was not good on the road, and that's not a good recipe for success in the 3-game series when you have to go to a rival. I think Cincy could win game 1 off the strength of being at home, but how fun is it going to be to see TQL Stadium and then Lower.com Field at its finest with these teams going back and forth? We say the best of 3 series sometimes is kind of, a little too much. We love it in this case. I hope this goes the distance. I hope we get the most out of this series, because it should on paper be fun. Now that we say that, it might be like a straight blowout, but I'm going with Cincy because they are they're just more stacked right now. They were healthier, and that level. I think Evander since being in MLS, and it's so crazy how he goes from Portland to Cincy, and it was almost like nothing. Like instant impact. He fell right into place. I didn't think it was going to be that easy for him. but that just goes to prove the type of player that he is, his personality, his mentality. And when you have, like you said, you have a star, a difference maker of that caliber, that takes you a long, long way. So don't forget they have a scorer in Kevin Denke too. That it's that attack is as scary as, like I said, as basically any in MLS. So I'm rolling with Cincy, and I think I'm on board, man. I think they could make a run at this. Okay, cool. So we are through the first round in the East. Let's transition over to the West, and then we'll get into how this bracketology looks. We'll start with the expansion San Diego FC, who, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, had an incredible first year in MLS, set records. They won 12 road games. They set the expansion points record. They just did everything right under Mikey Barras, who another Coach of the Year candidate who would not be shocked if he wins it at all. And they will be playing the winner of the wild card, which we are going with RSL, even though I'm still thinking about Portland a little bit. So San Diego RSL, how do you feel about that series, potential series, if that is the case, and what that could offer us?
Yeah, I don't think it really mattered who the wild card winner was. I think they're both relatively weak teams in the grand scheme of things. So I mean, I got San Diego. I don't know if I see San Diego going very far in the playoffs, but I do think in their first season, Mikey Veras has been great. The pieces that they have have been incredible. So I don't see them losing their first series, especially that first match, their first ever playoff match in their first inaugural season. They're going to take it in San Diego. So that already is going to give them one leg up. So I got San Diego going here. I'm not going to complicate things.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think it's so funny how we have the same, and it's not just us. I mean, this is a wide consensus. Like the two top seeds on both sides, we're like, we don't know how good they are to really make a run, but yeah, we're not going to overcomplicate the first round. I think either team that they play coming out of the wild card, it's a wash. San Diego, they've been very, very impressive, and they didn't finish first for no reason. I think them being at home, the home field advantage throughout the playoffs is amazing. San Diego is going to be up for this, their first playoff game ever. It's in a year of first, when you're able to check these things off the list, right, and do it successfully, it just is such a big deal. I was there for their opener this season at the beginning of the year, and the energy was incredible. It's just like they have the energy about them, but at the same time, like they've been better on the road, which is hilarious because like they're not going to play on the road much in the playoffs if they make a run. So they might only have one. They will actually only have one road game. So that second game in either at RSL or at Portland, we'll see how that goes. But they, like I mentioned, they win 12 road games this year. It's a team where Anders Dreyer, newcomer of the year, hands down. But everything else has worked. And I think there's two things now, because right now there's like an ominous report of Chucky Lozano, and we don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. He didn't play decision that he wasn't part of the roster. And Mikey Virus was asked about it, and he said that there's an internal issue they're dealing with, something about week to week. That doesn't sound good. It sounds like a disciplinary thing. I don't know what the case is, but that is just one of those things where it's like, this is very peak MLS, where you're going into your first ever playoff series, your first playoff appearance at home. You've set this record, crazy season, and your star player, your centerpiece, is in a question mark because of reasons unknown right now at this point. So we'll see what happens there if he is available. I think that the thing about San Diego is they do lack that goal scorer too, right? Like they have a little bit of a hole there, but at the same, then they traded him but they're so good in the midfield. They're so good defensively. I think everything on that team they complement each other very well. So they'll get through the series, but it's gonna be interesting to see what happens later on in the playoffs.
Definitely.
Minnesota, Seattle. This is one that, like, I think people maybe that are not paying too much attention to the Loons, which seems to be the case a lot, will be a little bit surprised. And Seattle is Seattle, right? This is their time of the year. This is when they come alive. It's almost like Seattle will always be there somehow. And any argument you try to make it like, yeah, but it's Seattle. Yeah, but it's Brian Schmitz. Yeah, and it's so funny because the core rotates, and they have different players, and they still figure ways to make runs in these tournaments. How do you feel about this series? Because I'm very interested in how this breaks down.
Yeah, so I'm very interested in this for a few reasons. One, which I made a video on, I was very angry at the loss of Tani Oluwaseyi, just because I felt like Minnesota wasn't even allowed to replace him, just with how the windows work. But then again, Minnesota have kept up decently since he's left, and they are a strong team. And then I've also looked it up. Minnesota beat Seattle twice this year, and that's something to consider as well. That being said, I mean, and I hate to say this as a Galaxy fan, but Seattle keep proving that they're the standard of MLS. Like, it's not LAFC, it's not Miami, it's not the Galaxy, it is the Seattle Sounders, and we saw what they did in the Leagues Cup. And I think given that we've already seen what this group can do, and no offense to the Open Cup, but I look at the Leagues Cup as a higher marker just because of the quality of competition. Then I look at the Open Cup just with how things shake out. But to me, that tells me that Seattle's already ready for this. They always are ready for this. So I do have Seattle winning, but very reluctantly. I think Seattle's just such a strong. They have the mentality. They have a winner's mentality, and that's what it's going to come down to here. And I don't fully trust Minnesota's goal scoring without Oluwaseyi.
Yeah, Seattle's built for this, right? And you said it. The Leagues Cup shows you so much of how a tournament mindset could kind of just snap into play, and then all of a sudden, you're up for a few games to win a trophy, and how that works, right? They have Messi, we have Paul Rothrock, like Brian Schmetzer. He's been doing this for years in this league, and it's incredible to see the players and how that rotation has been. I think Seattle, they have definitely not been as consistent this year as perhaps other years. And it's funny to say that because other years they kind of get consistent towards the end of the year, right? Like they kind of cruise, and at the end of the year, it's like, all right, we're going full throttle ahead. But that roster, to me, is probably the most equipped to win a tournament, a playoff rather, like MLS Cup. They have the pieces there. They have players that have done it, and they have Brian Schmetzer who figures this out. I think this Minnesota team is interesting, but you mentioned losing Tani is big. I think that defensively they're really good, and I think Dane St. Clair,
goalkeeper of the year
for me as well. Michael Boxall is amazing. Like I think offensively they have enough to make this interesting for Seattle, and this was where I'm leaning like one way or another, because I'm like, does Seattle have enough to score consistently on this team? Like, maybe they won't need multiple goals, right? But will they have enough to score on this team? And I think the answer is yes, but it's not going to be easy. We've seen Minnesota play defensively really, really sound all season. This is a team that Eric Ramsey, I think it's a team that just gets slept on. And I think it's the same thing we mentioned with Nashville. Like, if this Minnesota team is playing, maybe, I don't want to say anybody else in the West, but like it's playing like Austin or something like that. Like, you're like, it's a no-brainer, right? I think anybody against Austin might be a no-brainer, but there's definitely pieces there that can make. I'm gonna pick Seattle because it's Seattle at the end of the day. And Obed Vargas had an incredible year, and Paul Rothrock has been great. And you could go down the list of players.
Jordan Morris is back. Whether you rate him or not, he's back. So that's a thing.
There's players there. Christian Roldan, obviously amazing. Like, there's just they have the guys, right? Like, so I'm gonna go with them. But this is the series for me in the West that I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if Minnesota won it. I just want to say this now, so when they do upset the Sounders, I'll come back to this clip. But now I'm going to pick the Sounders. I'm rolling with Seattle. So
for sure,
we're in agreement there. Let's go to the next one, which is the Los Angeles Football Club against Austin FC. How to make my guy Eli talk about LAFC, as I know he loves this so much.
I mean, this is going to be a hard watch for me.
Yeah,
it's going to be domination, and it's going to be ridiculous. I mean, Austin FC, I can't believe it's crazy how Austin is the 6th seed, because I felt they've been underwhelming all year, especially in the attack with the amount of money they invested. And I know the loss of Brandon Vasquez was big, but Uzuni to me has not done the trick. I think we're in for a blowout. Both matches. It's going to be in 2. It's going to be like 3-4 nils. Unfortunately, I don't want to hate on Austin, because I love the people in Austin. I love the culture they've built, and everything about Austin FC off the field. They're great or whatever, but this is a tough one.
Yeah, they're all matched completely, which is like it's going to be Boanga and Son just running on a freeway green light every time, and it sucks because, like you said, right. Austin's my favorite away stadium or stadium in general in MLS.
Favorite city to visit.
Yeah, it's just amazing everything they have going on there, and the fans are still. I mean, it's slipped because the team has had bad results recently, but the fans are still bought in, right? Like, they just want some success. They were so amped up that they got to the Open Cup final, right? Like, they would have won that. That would have been incredible. You mentioned Brendan Vasquez getting injured. Ozuni, definitely disappointing. I think when he first came on, he kind of got his feet under him a little bit, but still not enough. I think Bukhari's good, but it's not enough. And if there's one thing that LAFC will do is defend with their hearts. And if a team that can't really score that well is going up against LAFC team that sound, I mean, I don't want to say they're a great defensive team, like lockdown defensive team, but those are their principles at LAFC. We know this because Steve Strundalo, former defender himself. It's just going to be counterattack. I think there's no shot for Austin.
I will say Austin has taken both matches against LAFC. I'm looking at this now, and I know one of those was recently, but at the same time, it's just like this just feels like such a different LAFC team right now.
Yeah, no, it does. And I was with the one person right before the Sun signing that was like, this LAFC team is not it. Like, just, but it's crazy how much one player could change the mentality and the focus and everything that they have going on.
I know. I'm mad they got rid of Giroux, man.
Yeah. So we'll see. It's gonna be a quick series, I believe, as well. But it's unfortunate because this Austin team, I feel like people just want them to be good, just to kind of like, all right, because it was fun when they were good a few years ago. Like they played LAFC in the Western Conference Final, and that was a hell of a season for Austin. And I think that there's just so much that happened there from then to now, and new coach and so many different things. Obviously, Sebastian Drusi leaving, but Austin just feels like they're like two players away from doing something really, really great.
Yeah, they're just not ready yet. I think maybe next year they'll maybe live more up to the expectations that I had on them this year. But yeah, for me, it's a wrap, unfortunately, for this one.
Yeah, I think the Open Cup final kind of showed us what we needed to see, right? Like this team is good to be competitive, but like they don't have that final touch that's going to make a difference, and certainly not against a team that has Bouanga and Sun firing on all cylinders. So wow. LAFC's through there, and then the last one we have here is Vancouver against FC Dallas, which I think is a pretty interesting series. But I'd like to hear your thoughts.
I mean, for me, it's less interesting maybe than it is for you. I think decision day was lucky for Dallas. They were handed a W. They were handed the 7th seed because of that. So I'm not taking that match into account at all for this. Dallas is definitely a surprise for me this year. I didn't think this team on paper was built to be close to a playoff team. They were one of my lower seeds. So I'm very confident in this Vancouver Whitecaps team. We saw them make the CONCACAF Champions Cup final. I think they've only gotten better with Mueller. Ryan Gauld is getting back into the fold. So I'm pretty confident in the Vancouver Whitecaps in this one, and I think it'll be a 2-game series. But maybe nice. I want to hear what you have to say about Dallas.
I think Dallas is good enough to make this interesting. I'm going to tell you right now, I have Vancouver winning MLS Cup. And I was filling out the bracket and I was like, you know what? I'm in. But I think Dallas has a way about them that they could make this pretty interesting. I think Petter Musa and Logan Farrington have kind of come. They didn't play this decision day game. They were, I think, probably better for them that they didn't, because it was like, let's see what happens here and how they could move forward to this series. Obviously, they didn't know they were going to play Vancouver, but there's something about that team that makes me a little intrigued. I don't think they're good enough to win a series, but I think they're good enough to make it a game. There's something about them, right, that all season they've just been there. They haven't been great, haven't been terrible. They struggled at home, which was kind of weird too. Going up to Vancouver, it should be interesting. I don't know. I don't necessarily have a great reason why this will be interesting, but I do think that this Dallas team will go out fighting. Respectful fight. It won't be. I don't think it's going to be like, oh, Vancouver's going to blow them out. But everything that you said, Vancouver this year has been amazing. Speaking of Coach of the Year candidates, like Jesper Sorensen will probably end up winning.
Probably my vote, but yeah. I mean, yeah.
He's fair. Like I think there's 4 like legitimate, really good candidates for that award, and I think if Jesper Sorensen wins it, it's definitely warranted. What they've done this season has been amazing. Not even just aside from CONCACAF Champions Cup, which was incredible. I was actually in Mexico City the day that they beat Pumas, which was hilarious. I was just there for fun, and I was like, they actually won that game. That's crazy. But yeah, it's the energy. The energy has been good all year in Vancouver, regardless of who's on the field, throughout all the injuries. And I think that has been a testament to what Sorensen has been able to do. And then you put Thomas Müller in there, which is a dude that literally is just having fun. And you could see it when he's out there. You could see it in his interviews. That's a scary recipe. So I'm going with Vancouver here too. But I like Dallas pushing this to 3 series.
Maybe they got that ex-dog in them. I mean, this is a team that's only gone better since losing Lucho Acosta.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
Significantly better too. Like it was night and day when they got rid of Lucho. So there might be something there. I don't think they're ready yet, like we were talking about with Austin. But I think those Texas teams still have a little bit to go. But I'm interested in this series. I don't know why, but I am. All right, that's our first round. So let's stay out west as we're already here. So this is where it starts getting fun, because
really fun.
These two matchups in the West, San Diego, Seattle, and LAFC, Vancouver, are like, those are easily Western Conference final matchups. It's great that we get, in the way that this breaks down, the way that we have it, that we'll get those two. So San Diego, Seattle, what would be your thoughts on that potential series?
I mean, San Diego, Seattle, I think this is where San Diego's season may come to an end. I think in a one-game playoff, I take Seattle over San Diego. I mean, we talk about the scoring options for Seattle, sometimes inconsistent, but, Anders Dreyer's really going to have to create for himself in this one and create a banger of a goal like he scored on decision day for me to see, San Diego getting past this Seattle side. So I'm going to go Seattle here. I'm going to take experience over, the flashy new toy. But it's going to be a hell of a match. And I think me picking Seattle is also going to set up an amazing conference final that I have in mind where, I don't think it's crazy because you have the potential for like a California SoCal matchup in the conference final, or you have Cascadia, or you have a mixture. It's going to be a banger either way, but let's just say I'm shaping up for Cascadia.
Having San Diego, Seattle, LAFC, and Vancouver like as the final four in the West is great. Like in a conference that wasn't the best this season, and we talked about how good the East was. That is incredible. I'm rolling with San Diego, but this whole Chucky Lozano thing is getting me a little worried.
It's definitely getting me worried too. That's why I don't have them.
Yeah, I reserve the right to change my mind. No, but there's something. Expansion teams that we just don't know, and it's so funny because like we've been saying that forever, right? And expansion teams typically don't do well in the playoffs, regardless of how good they are in the regular season. We saw with LAFC their first year. We saw it with St. Louis a few years ago. Something about this San Diego team, I don't know. I think because it was so unknown coming into the year, and Mikey Vargas was like, I'm sticking to my principles. There's something, a coach that is that confident in his way from day one of the preseason and has been able to basically ride that wave all year, regardless of who's on the field, regardless of, trades and stuff like that. On paper, I would pick Seattle because it's like, it's Seattle. Everything we just talked about. Give me San Diego here, man. Give me San Diego.
Okay. One thing I will say is I do think that a lot of playoff matches and matches in general are won in the midfield. And obviously we know San Diego's midfield has been fantastic this year. However, I think the Seattle midfield pairs up pretty well against San Diego. And I think if there is a duo or trio that could stop them, it might be Obed Vargas and Christian Roldan. So who knows? But I'm going to pick Seattle. I have a feeling it won't matter for either of us based on who I think we have making MLS Cup. But I'm going to take experience here. I don't think San Diego gets to the conference final.
That's fair. And mentioning Obed Vargas and Christian Roldan is always good on my book. It's two incredible players. So LAFC Vancouver would be the other matchup there. And I think we just alluded to who we both have winning that game. Why would you take the Whitecaps over LAFC in this?
Revenge. This is justice for Vanni Sartini, baby. No, I first of all love Vanni, even though not there anymore or whatever. But I think Vancouver will be LAFC's kryptonite in the playoffs this year. I think that if there is one team that can stop LAFC, I'm picking the Vancouver Whitecaps. And the current form of both clubs has been ridiculous. The summer signings have been smash hits both on and off the field. That being said, especially if Vancouver gets a lot of their injured back line back before this, which they should be slated to, because I think this series won't even happen to like mid-November, just how long the first round usually is. I'm very confident, that if there is a back line that could stop Belonga Sun, it's a healthy Tristan Blackman, who I think is a best 11 player this year, which would be a cool revenge story for him. And, just for me, Vancouver has just been so consistent all year round, as you mentioned, versus an LAFC team that's hot at the right time. And sometimes that's all that takes in the MLS playoffs. But I want to take the consistency of this Vancouver side. And I do think they'll be able to exploit LAFC's defense a little bit. But then, I think this might be a slugfest, actually, now that I think about it, just with the rate both teams have been scoring all year.
Yeah, no, it's a juicy matchup, and I love that you mentioned Vinny Sartini because I literally tweeted about that yesterday. I'm like, "Where's Vinny Sartini when you need him?" Like, it's gonna be LAFC and Vancouver Whitecaps again in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
This is amazing. This is like the fact that it's gonna be Sun. Well, in our world, it's gonna be Sun versus Miller. The signings of the season. It's gonna be so much fun if this does happen. I think that I just haven't seen enough from LAFC besides those two, Bouanga and Son, and that's obviously a really good duo, right? Same thing you can say with Miami. Like, well, if it's not Messi, who is it? But when it's not either of those two, which is not, it hasn't been seen yet since they've been there. Like, what else does LAFC do? I think there's a lack of secondary options for that team, and when you get longer in a game, that's a one-off where pressure is on, where perhaps it might be scoreless or you're not getting anything from those two players. Like, you're going to need somebody else. I don't think LAFC really have that player right now. That's going to be a difference maker. And we know how on transition defensively, you might see Ryan Hollinshead be somebody like that. You might see Sergio Palencia be somebody like that. Nathan Hernandez has been fighting injuries. So this LAFC team is talented as hell. And we know that. It's a very, very good roster, a roster with experience through and through, both in the league and out of the league. Steve from those lows last season in MLS, so there's a little bit of emphasis there. I think that Vancouver finds a way to do this, and we know how important it is for LAFC to play home games, especially in the playoffs. The fact that they'll have to be playing this game in Vancouver, it kind of changes the tide a little bit. And we know winning on the road in MLS isn't easy, never mind in the MLS playoffs. So I'm fully in on Vancouver because of what they've shown throughout the year and that consistency, like you mentioned, under Jesper Sorensen. This would be amazing. You know what? I'm gonna have to go to Vancouver if this happens. Like that. Ooh. That is an incredible match to set up the Western Conference Finals. So we're in agreement there. I'm going to Vancouver, and then you got Seattle. I got San Diego. So that sets up a nice Western Conference Final, which we'll touch on in a second. We'll go back to the East. We got Philly. We got Charlotte. Correct? Yep.
All right, I picked NYC.
You got New York. Yeah, you got New York. Yep. So you got Philly, New York. How would you? That's Philly, New York would be.
I know.
That's a car crash right there.
Yeah, you see, that's a tough one because like we talk about us doubting Philly, but I think they would have the upper hand against NYC, where I don't think they would against Charlotte. Fair. I know that sounds weird, but I think if Charlotte managed to get past NYC and the whole Zaha situation, I would take this Charlotte team over them. But I do feel like Philly has NYC's number. I think they still crave that revenge from the stupid 2021 debacle of COVID destroying that team for one match. Because they would have won MLS Cup that year had they done it or had they not had COVID. But I got to take Philly in this one just because as little as I actually believe in this Philly team, I still believe in them more than this NYC team. I'm sure NYC does have some experience, especially with guys like Maxi Morales, who somehow played all 34 matches at whatever age he is, which is crazy. And he has the experience needed, and I guess the star power, even if he's less of a key guy as he was back when they won it. I do think Philly as a unit is stronger, so I'm going to just take him there.
Yeah, I had Charlotte, so for me it would be Philly, Charlotte, but I still have Philly in this. I think besides the fact that this Union team doesn't have like that star player, defensively they're really, really good. That Glesnes, Makana, center back duo. They have Kai Wagner still. They just played on decision day too, right? But it wasn't Tabaribo didn't play. You have Damiani. Like the pieces that they have there is not like anybody jumps off the page at you. But I think defensively, this team is good enough defensively to just literally shut teams down. And Charlotte, New York, they have those attacking options, but Philly at home with the energy of Supporters Shield, with the energy of everything Bradley Carnell's been saying, I'm gonna give them. I might just be I'm going chalk here, but I'm gonna give both of those one seeds a little more credit than people might be, and I think it's the unknown that gets people scared about that. But I'm like, yo, if you're able to do it throughout the season and win a Supporters Shield, which once again, we haven't the same way we haven't seen expansion teams do well. We haven't seen Supporters Shield winners typically too great in MLS Cup playoffs too. But I think they have pieces there. I think they have pieces there to at least get past that stage. And whether it's Charlotte, whether it's New York, I like Philly defensively. Andre Blake and goals. Andre Blake. So I'm gonna roll with Philly. So we're agreeing there that they're moving on at least.
Yeah, this next match is crazy.
bruh. Miami, Cincinnati. That's the goods right there, bro. That's the goods.
I don't know how confident I am in picking either team because they're both like who I view as the best two teams in the West or the East. Oof, because me a few months ago was so convinced Cincinnati was going to win MLS Cup. A part of me wants to stick by them and go with that, but also Inter Miami, it's messy, bro. Like it's hard. Like no matter how weak we look at the rest of Inter Miami, sometimes. I want you to predict first because I'm still undecided here. I want to hear what you have to say, and maybe that will sway me.
I'm gonna go with Cincy.
Okay.
I think once again to the point of the downfall for me for Miami is going to be defensively, and that's across the board. I said it. This team is going to get exposed. Somebody's going to light this team up in the playoffs. I just don't know who it's going to be. This was before decision day. I was like, somebody's going to light that team up in the playoffs because on transition, they're awful.
Yeah.
If you have Evander and Brenner and Danke in transition against the Miami team, they might be the team that's able to score 5 goals against them and end up winning like 5-3 against this Miami team.
And they did beat them somewhat recently.
I think that the Cincinnati team, because of how good their attack is, it lines up great against that weak Miami defense.
You know what? You've convinced me. I am going to go Cincy because I want to stay with the gut that I had like a few months ago. But also, I just looked it up. Cincy's the last time they played, Cincy won 3-0 with Messi playing. Yep. So I think that's interesting to look at. And yeah, I mean, this team in transition is definitely scary for that Inter Miami back line, and I would trust them more in that situation. So, and I also think Cincy's back line is a lot stronger than a lot of teams. So I would take Cincy in this one now.
Yeah, and coming off of what would be Hell is Real, right? That's an emotional, say Cincy, gets past us, we're predicting. That's an emotional win. That's an emotional boost for this FC Cincinnati team. Now you get to play Miami at home, like to the point, like maybe to Messi and company, it doesn't matter where the hell they're playing, but like to other people on that Miami team, it might having to go into that environment in Cincy, which is set to be one of the stadiums in MLS. I haven't been to it, but I'm sure it's great.
It's great.
I'm thinking this might be, I don't want to say easy. It's not just going to be easy against Messi and them, but I'm thinking this might be like that signature win for FC Cincinnati, where it's like, okay, sure, we know that, Evander's been great, and we know that we have a good defense, and we know XYZ, but they need that one win to be like, yes, we're actually like that, and I think this could be it because the other thing to me about Miami is like I haven't seen Javier Mascherano really coach himself out of certain situations this season. And that scares me when it comes to the playoffs, right? Like I think you're so reliant on what you have, which is world-class players. But how do you get out of certain situations? Could Pat Noonan draw something up to make this team struggle a bit? And to my point earlier about Orlando kind of laid the blueprint how to play against Miami, be physical against these dudes. If there's going to be people that are going to get up for this game, potentially it's going to be the Brazilians who are going to be like, yo, we're not going to back down. And Miami, if they're losing any of these games, are going to go out the way that Messi and Luis Suarez have always gone out in their career, is fighting and arguing. And when it gets to that point, that's when that home field advantage gives you that edge over them. So I think this is where the road ends for Miami. Salute to Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets for all their contributions. But I'm going with FC Cincinnati here.
Yeah, you've definitely convinced me. I think we talk about the attack backline. I also think midfield-wise, they're going to cause havoc as well. I'm feeling better about saying Cincy than I was before. And I also think, though, this might be where we disagree later on in the bracket, but like a win against Miami, that might give you the confidence boost to really go all the way. So I'm not convinced in who I have winning MLS Cup now. I'm convinced on who I have winning the next round. But
I agree. I think that there's, how it is. Playoffs are very momentum driven for anybody, but how much more energy could you get in a playoff run than beating this Miami team who MLS Cup is all they have? Like, this is what they want. They know that this is everything for them. And I don't know. I think they could definitely be had. And I think the Cincy team is the right team to do it. And just run, man. You got to run against these old dudes. You know what I say every Saturday. Run. Just run, bro.
You go. I've never seen a center back have the endurance that you have, the way that you go up and down the pitch the whole match. You scare me sometimes because I'm like, oh my God, like I'm all by myself now. And then you're all of a sudden back. And I'm like, damn. Like
run. And you got against Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba, man, I would be sending all the runners against them. So So we like that. So we're down to the conference finals on both sides, right? We have the Philadelphia Union against FC Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the West, you have Seattle versus Vancouver. I have San Diego versus Vancouver. But I think we're probably going to be in agreement here, regardless of those series, what the MLS Cup final is. Who do you have coming out of the East?
I have FC Cincinnati. I think it'll be cool to see Cincinnati beat Philly, just given the history of, Noonan and all of that. I just think this team, it's weird to say, but I just think this team is a lot better on paper, despite, the points this season. And we have seen Philly have some pretty disastrous matches this year, despite being Supporter Shield. And I think Cincy's a team that's going to match up pretty well against them.
Yeah, I have, as much as I went up and down with FC Cincinnati this season, I have them also getting out of the East. Cincy surprisingly was really good on the road this year too. And I think a lot of times that gets overlooked in MLS, but it is so hard to win on the road in MLS because of the travel times, because of the difference in nature of all of these different stadiums all over the country. But that's impressive. And I'm not going to say Philly doesn't have a great advantage, but going from having a Hell is Real first round series, then potentially beating Miami, to go have to play in Philly after having such a good season. I mean, for both sides, it's going to be a fight, but I think that Cincy, this is the year that Cincy is poised to make that run. And I've been convinced, I've convinced myself. You mentioned defensively their style, and they have Miles Robinson, that Odeshano is always a stud for them. So I think they have the pieces there, and you put them against that Bradley Carnell team. That'll be a very fun match, just to see the coaching styles there. But I will give FC Cincinnati the edge. So we both have FC Cincinnati, Eastern Conference representative in MLS Cup. And out West, like I mentioned, we both have Vancouver. You have them against Seattle, and I have them against San Diego. We talked about it, man. I think just consistency for Vancouver this year has been the key. And you mentioned a really good point. Like, getting Ryan Gauld back is going to give that boost, because it was such an unknown when he was going to be back. Is he going to be back? They're seemingly, I mean, you mentioned getting Tristan Blackman as well. If they can seemingly get that team rounded into form with their players at the right time, it's huge. And you're talking about a team that loses a piece like Vite in the middle of the season, but still has Andre Kubas. I think Takaoka has a shout for being a goalkeeper of the year candidate. Like, that team has been really impressive this year.
The rise of Berhalter too.
Sebastian Berhalter's year has been absolutely incredible. So everything there, and Jesper Sorensen. Shout out to the noise in downtown LA. Jesper Sorensen, once again, just what he's been able to do with this team throughout injuries, throughout competitions. I think they're poised for it, man. And you have a player like Thomas Müller, who, once again, is just one of the boys, man. He's just having fun. That's the difference maker you need, right? That's the difference maker you need in these moments. I think against Seattle, it would be a much harder game for Thomas Müller specifically than it would be against San Diego. But I think they're poised to go to MLS Cup. So I got Vancouver. Yeah,
and I have them beating Seattle as well. But I think San Diego would be an easier matchup for them. But either way, like, I got them going through. And it would be so cool for them to get to MLS Cup against, with them beating their Cascadia rival. I mean, that's just setting up a great story for them, a story that they've had all year. But dang. Our MLS Cup, we have the same one.
That's crazy.
And, this is going to be a hell of an MLS Cup. I'm going to make sure I'm there no matter what. I've never been to Vancouver, by the way, so that'll be cool.
Beautiful city.
Yeah, I hear it's the best. I've only gone to Toronto in Canada, unfortunately. But in this matchup, I'm leaning more towards Vancouver, although I've actually had Cincy. I had Vancouver Cincy as my matchup. When I told you that I've had Cincy winning MLS Cup for a while now, I had Vancouver as their opponent. But just the form that I've seen Vancouver in, it's just crazy how they already started the year off so great, and then they've just been even better since. And a player like Thomas Müller, you think is going to come to MLS and, he's old, he's washed. No, he's the same winner he's always been. And sure, he might not have the same legs as he had, but we even saw that with Marco Reus down the stretch last year for the Galaxy, where it's just like, it doesn't matter sometimes. You just, if you have it, if you've had it, you still have it.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing the energy. I mean, no one's a better locker room guy in the sport than Thomas Muller. I mean, no one brings the energy and the vibes up more than he does. So for me, I got to take this Vancouver Whitecaps team, especially because we've already seen them make a final this year. I think that's also important, even though it was in the beginning of the year. And once they get everyone back healthy, I know Brian White's even dealing with some stuff as well. But by this point, he'll definitely be back. And though they should have their back line back. It's going to be a great final, and I know I say stars matter, and low-key, I would take Evander over Thomas Muller right now. I think Vancouver, especially at home, would triumph in this situation.
Yeah, no, I agree. Stars definitely matter, and it's something about Vancouver where they have the proof, right? And they've just been so much fun to watch this year. And I think people have not realized how much they've dealt with in terms of injuries and rotating rosters. And Sorensen was during the CONCACAF run, he wasn't scared to be like, nah, we're gonna do what we need to do. And not only were they competitive, not only were they winning on en route to making that final, not only everybody's like, oh, they're gonna fall off after the tournament, they just kept it going. Like they've been doing it consistently, and they've been doing it at a heavy rate. Like this is a team that nobody probably had in the beginning of the season being at this rate, at this level. Then you
pull it up.
Then you add a world-class player to it. Like they finished on 63 points, the same San Diego did, and like they easily could have been the top seed in the West. So there's so much about this Vancouver team to like. I just think that why not, man? Because the craziness of MLS in the playoffs, like why can't they be LAFC and then go and win MLS Cup? The same way we talk about. I mean, both of these teams, if it breaks out the way we have it, like imagine Cincy beating Miami and Vancouver beating LAFC. Like those are two like big wins that are going to boost you in all types of ways. But the way that we have to fill the bracket out, I got Vancouver, man, and I'm not even gonna think about too much of how that lines up and how that matchup happens because there's a chance that it doesn't happen. But in my world, this Vancouver team is built to win, and it'll be the perfect like bow on what they've been able to do this season.
Yeah, I just want to pull this up real quick because I do my standings predictions at the start of the year like everyone else does. Yeah. And, since we want to talk about embarrassing ourselves today.
Please do.
Do you want to guess where I had the Vancouver Whitecaps at the start of the year?
9th.
I had them 14th.
Ooh, man.
I thought they were cooked without Ryan Gauld.
Oh.
I was like, this team's cooked. Like I didn't see the rise of Berhalter coming the way it did. I slept on Vide. I slept on Tristan Blackman as like a star center back for sure. I mean, I knew he was always decent, but I didn't realize he was like best 11 caliber. I didn't know Brian White was going to be a golden boot, up there at least without Ryan Gauld, and especially the way he was in CONCACAF at the start of the year was ridiculous. So yeah, that is by far the worst prediction I think I've ever had, putting them at 14th at the start of the year. Everything else seems okay. I mean, I had the Galaxy at 3rd, but no one saw what happened coming.
Where'd you have San Diego? Now that you have that up,
wild card.
Okay.
So I at least saw them.
Respect.
I had them in the wild card versus St. Louis. So,
yeah,
that's a tough one.
Yeah, we could do a whole podcast on the teams that didn't make it and what the hell went wrong because a lot went wrong for those teams. But
for sure,
we've talked about all of these candidates for Coach of the Year. Quite literally, everything that you just mentioned is why Sorensen probably wins Coach of the Year.
That's why
these players that much better. And I don't want to say it was just him, but look at how great Berhalter and Blackman boosted up to be this year. The steps that Brian White. I mean, there's just players all over that team that you're like they were good, but they turned up completely, and that's coaching, man. That's 100% coaching and what he's able to do in Vancouver this year.
And even turning, because I love talking about the super draft, a first-round pick, Tate Johnson, into a starter right away.
Yep.
Like that doesn't happen in MLS anymore. So, like I'm big on the Whitecaps. Jesper Sorensen, like that. I picked him for Coach of the Year. I can't hide that. I mean, he to me what he did, especially with where I thought Vancouver was compared to where they finished, like. There's no option for me there. And the fact that I'm going to actually pick them to win MLS Cup is pretty crazy.
Yeah. I didn't, what's funny because we talked about doing this live and I love that we did because I just filled my bracket out a little while ago. And I was like, damn, if I would have thought, like, if you just had to like pick a team, right, I wouldn't have picked Vancouver, like knowing who's in the playoffs and knowing kind of the matchups. But as you start going through the bracket and looking like what lines up where, I'm like, Yeah, I think I got Vancouver, man. Like, and I have it. I'm not reluctant about that as much as I thought I would be, which is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, at the start of the year, I took the hype Reese route, and I made it was LAFC versus Miami. So confession, I pick LAFC to make MLS Cup final every year because I want to jinx them, and there's the Eli curse. So if I pick them to go all the way, then they won't. So actually, I changed my whole bracket. LAFC is winning it all this year, so that But no, I mean the thing is, I could see LAFC somehow pulling it off if they get past Vancouver. Who knows? But as of now, I'm most confident in the Vancouver Whitecaps winning MLS Cup. I think regardless of the situation, it'd be crazy though. I was thinking about this the other night. Inter Miami versus Vancouver, the amount of travel it would take for Miami to get to Vancouver, and the whole, Messi refused to go to Vancouver at the start of the year. Would he even show up to MLS Cup? I mean, he would, but it's that would be a crazy matchup. But no, I think it will be Cincinnati, but I'm going to take Vancouver over Cincy just because we have more of a sample size of them being, in these types of situations recently. But
I love it, man. I love it. That was great breakdown, great analysis. You have it here, man. So you know what to come back when we're completely wrong and somebody like Orlando ends up winning MLS Cup or some random team. But somebody's going to win it. And I think this is as open as it's been in a long, long time. Whereas last year, we're like, yeah, the Galaxy are really good, and they probably are going to win MLS Cup because they don't lose at home, and they're going to be at home the whole time. So this year is really, really open. You can make arguments for a lot of teams, and that's the fun part about it. The action gets started Wednesday, wild card games. You know where you got to watch it. Apple TV, and then we're off and running. The schedule is crazy. We'll have that little break in between because of international break and all that, but all the way till December 6th, MLS Cup, I believe, where maybe it'll be in Vancouver, and maybe Eli and I will be in Vancouver hanging out too. So, Eli, appreciate you. Thanks for coming through. It's been a pleasure to have you. Anything you want to say before we log out here?
Nah, just keep your legs fresh for Saturday. We need you.
You know it, man. I go through my same routine every week. Gym, basketball, run, recovery, soccer. So
actually, for the fans out there, I just want to let you guys know I've never seen a better throw-in taker than Andy Diosa. Is that how you pronounce your last name?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The only comparable throw-in guy, this is for the sickos out there, Matt Beasler. Back in the day for SKC, he was known for taking the throw-in and throwing it right into the box for an easy header. It was more efficient than corner kicks. Andy is him with that. So just know
our throw-ins are set pieces. That's all I've been saying, man. Throw-ins are set pieces.
For real.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's always great to be back on the field. Eli and I were actually at MLS All-Star break in Austin this year, and then I was recruited to Eli soccer team, which I've had a blast being part of it, being out there. So Eli, once again, my brother, thanks for coming through. Make sure you tap in with Eli. I will have all of his socials and all that fun stuff linked in the YouTube episode. Make sure you come back here and see everything that we got right and not everything that we got wrong, because of course you're not going to be wrong. It's MLS. Why would we be wrong? And stay tapped in until the next time. Peace.